So we're moving on to the Hennessy Gold Cup, which is the big race after the Paddy Power. And Sportsmad Sam on Twitter has been asking us about Rocky Creek and what his target is for the season. Catherine, Rocky Creek was a favourite of yours last year, I believe. How do you rate his chances, and would you think that the Hennessy is in fact his target?
Yeah, I believe that they've come out and said that that is his target with Rocky Creek. I've always thought that he could possibly one day go on to contest something like the Grand National. He's every inch your top class staying chaser. I've actually been watching Rocky Creek for a couple of years. 2 years ago I was told of this horse that had sort of wowed everyone in his win in an Irish point to point, and he'd gone to Paul Nicholls, and all the whispers I was getting for Ireland was watch out for Rocky Creek. Don't expect him to do much over hurdles, but when he goes chasing, it's going to be electric. He over hurdles, I mean, he only won once, but that again, it was a Grade 2 win. Behind him he had horses like Same Difference and Rival d'Estreville. Don't think he was quite at his best when he ran here in the Albert Bartlett in 2012. He can put a line through that completely. And also I'm not sure that Cheltenham plays to his strengths. He doesn't look as though he handles the undulations.
Bit more of a grinder.
He isn't. I just think that a real sort of a flat galloping horse suits him, whereas obviously Newbury is going to suit him down to the ground. You've seen him win at Ascot. He particularly likes Doncaster. There was a win at Warwick last season where he won novice chase by 15 lengths, and it was then when I thought, right, we're really starting to see the real Rocky Creek. Goes into the Hennessy off a mark of 151, and I think he's pretty fairly treated. Seems to have been the target all along. I don't think I'd ever have him in my head as something like a future Gold Cup course, and when you've got obviously the likes of Bobsworth, you know, yeah. I don't think you can put him in that same vein, but what you can put him in is your Hennessy, maybe even your Welsh National, the Grand National. He's top class, and yeah, he'd be my form pick for the Hennessy.
Catherine mentioned Bobsworth there, Dan, winner of the race last year, impressive winner too, and kind of really returned perhaps to class horses winning the race. 2007, 2009, of course, it was the great Denman, and then horses lower down in the weights after that. But do you think the trend of class horses will continue this season?
I think you've got to have a doubt about whether Bobsworth will turn up. I think you've got to look at the goings on at Haydock with losing the fixture to Carlisle, and obviously the Betfair Chase going to be run on the flat track. So I think Nicky Jensen's probably got one eye on that this year, so that may take out the Hennessy as an option. But you still got class horses in the race. You look at last week, and they announced that Imperial Commander with his weight dropping at 155, well, his rating, sorry, to 155, that the Hennessy becomes a serious option for him. So you've got a class aspect in that sort of race. But for me, in relation to the horses which I'm interested in, I think you've got to look at Our Father. Again, same profile to the point of Ballina Galway's Best Fresh. I think he's 3 from 3 when he's on seasonal debut, so you'd be good looking at him. And another one which me and Rory have been speaking about off air would be Invictus, a very good horse last year before injury curtailed the season before injury cut short his season there. You look at him. Yeah, he had a lot of people go on about the right-handed form Bobsworth. I'm not sold on that personally. I think there's a few issues with him away from not just being right-handed. I think there's a couple of illness or performance issues with him. So for me, Invictus, I think he comes off. He's been dropped to 145. I know it's been a target for some time by Alan King. The issue is whether he can get a run into him. I think if he can get a run into him over the next couple of weeks, then there's every chance he goes for Hennessy. If not, you might be looking at a graduation chase. But for now, I think they'll be the two which I'll be looking at.
Thank you. Let's have a word about Our Father now. Could potentially go to the Hennessy and miss the Paddy Power. Which would you say would be its most suitable target, Dave?
Hennessy all the way. I think he looks more of a Hennessy horse. I know. Again, it's a horse that that sort of divides opinion a little bit. Our Father, he certainly did last year, and he will do again this. But he's quite simply a horse you catch first time up, and then you don't touch him after that. His performance around here last year, where he beat Cycalonge, it's not difficult to do. It's not difficult to argue that the form might not be that good, but he did it very impressively, and he given a real Timmy Murphy, one of the Buffalo Gals rides, as we call it, went round the outside on it, looking for the better ground. But I think first time up will be the time to catch him. And he looks more of a Hennessy horse to me than he does a Paddy Power horse.
It's kind of known as a race for second season chasers, the Hennessy. Rory, would you see it going that way this year, or we've also, of course, had class horses as well win it with Bobsworth last year, Denman 2007, 2009. Bottom end of the weights or top end of the weights, do you think, this time around?
It depends how the weights are framed. It's never an easy race at this stage to work out the shape of. The Paddy Power is a lot easier, to be perfectly honest. And we have seen some class acts in the Hennessy in the last couple of years. Last year's race was class heavy. A lot of very good horses towards the top. And if you get that kind of shape again, then there's no point looking for a well-handicapped second season chaser on a mark in the 130s. You've got to have something that's got a little bit more class than that. But until you see what the likely entries are, then it's difficult to make that sort of decision. You mentioned Bobsworth and Denman as classy horses to have won this recently, but they were also second season chasers. Denman when he won it the first time, Bobsworth as well. And the RSA tends to be a very good guide to this race. Although the issue this year is this year's RSA just didn't seem to be an absolutely top quality renewal. So those who contested it would be interesting contenders, but none of them look thrown in per se. The horse I like in the race is, again, essentially a second season chaser, but he missed a year last year, and it's a horse called Invictus of Alan King's. Beat Bobsworth in the Reynoldstown at Ascot. Because he's been off the track for so long, the handicapper has done one of his specials and dropped him £5 from the mark of which he was rated at the time of the Reynoldstown. So he's off a mark of 145, which could see him at least a stone well in. And there aren't, however good last year's crop were, none of them are that far ahead of their mark at this stage. And Alan King, I think, has had him ready for an age and has had his eye on the Hennessy as the perfect starting point. He's bound to get a decent racing weight, and he catches the eye there.
Travels very nicely in his races, and you can see him going around there, can't you, quite nicely?
His jumping on the whole has been exceptional as well. The one time his jumping let him down was when he ran here. I was disappointed a couple of seasons ago, but he won at Plumpton, which doesn't sound like anything to write home about, but Plumpton novice chases in the winter can actually be pretty competitive affairs because there's a 60 grand bonus for anything that go win a certain race at Plumpton and go on to win at the festival. And he beat a horse of Tony Martin's called Gifted Gab by 10 lengths at level weights. Gifted Gab then was second to Fleming Star in the Irish Arkle later in the season. The form's absolutely rock solid, and as long as you don't know if a horse who's had an injury is going to come back at the same sort of level, but the impression I get is that the setback wasn't massive to Invictus. Alan King thinks he retains all his ability, and a mark of 145 could underplay him massively.
Thank you.